But essentially, we run large node and server operations on behalf of the community for those who are not technically inclined enough to do so. These models, while they are extremely decentralized in how they provide storage and computing and other services, they are very centralized in how they revenue share all the income that they receive from those services. So those revenues are specifically put forth to the node operators and the server operators. So you're having a large sum of revenue essentially being trickled down to a smaller group of individuals. Nuvola steps in and we democratize that process and share those revenues with our NVL token holders. So we essentially take on all the manpower and the technical aspects of running these large operations. And with the rewards that come in from them, we revenue share those with our own NVL holders and community.
What's up, Ada Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. I'm your host here, Fareed. As a part of today's video, we're diving into a brand new Cardano-based project called Nuvola Digital. I'm going to be joined by their co-founder. His name is Raul de Benedettis, and we're going to be diving into everything that they have to offer. Without any further ado, let me go ahead and bring the man up himself. Raul, welcome aboard. How are you?
Fareed, thank you for having me today. I'm honored to be on the channel and talk everything Nuvola.
Thank you for giving me your time. You guys have just made your grand entrance into the Cardano ecosystem not too long ago. And I want to talk a little bit about what you guys have to offer, just where you guys see this platform going in some of your recent partners and partnerships. So what I typically like to start off with is just a little bit of background surrounding yourself for the viewers. Do you mind maybe breaking down a little bit of your experience? And then we're going to dive into everything Nuvola.
Yep. My name is Raul de Benedettis. As far as my background goes, I have over a decade of experience in quality assurance engineering. I've worked in aerospace, naval, and medical manufacturing industries, and that's where a lot of my background comes with quality assurance. I've been part of the Cardano ecosystem since 2018, and there's no place like home. I've been here ever since, happy with all the growing pains and everything. And essentially what led me to Nuvola was some technical difficulties that I faced in my crypto experience. And I feel like I found the solution that could help a lot of other people that are having very similar issues as well.
Nice and simple introduction. I mentioned this to you yesterday when we chatted. It's surprising to be able to meet an OG like yourself, so thank you for being here through the ups and downs. I'm sure it's been a long time coming, right?
Yeah.
Going from a consumer to an actual developer and a builder contributing to the ecosystem. Now I'm taking a look at the official Nuvola Digital website. For anybody who wants to find out more about Nuvola, it's available at nuvoladigital.io. I'll go and leave the links to it down below. But I want to hear it from you yourself, Raul. Do you mind explaining what Nuvola Digital is and what the problem is, right? Or what the mission of a platform like Nuvola is aiming for?
Yep. So essentially, Nuvola at heart is a network expansion provider, and we do that by becoming a DePIN aggregator. So the term DePIN has been buzzing, but essentially what it stands for is decentralized physical infrastructure networks. What these networks allow is for end users or just about anyone with the technical expertise. It allows them to run nodes and servers to contribute to the robustness, the decentralization, and the size of their network for storage, computing, and many other services. Now, the problem that Nuvola solves is that those technical barriers to set up those servers and those nodes are pretty steep. It's not just about setting them up, it's also about maintaining the performance to properly be able to contribute to the networks. So I came across this problem when I was trying to set up a node for Iagon, and that's when I met my co-founder, and essentially that's where the idea of Nuvola was born. But essentially, we run large node and server operations on behalf of the community for those who are not technically inclined enough to do so. These models, while they are extremely decentralized in how they provide storage and computing and other services, they are very centralized in how they revenue share all the income that they receive from those services. So those revenues are specifically put forth to the node operators and the server operators. So you're having a large sum of revenue essentially being trickled down to a smaller group of individuals. Nuvola steps in and we democratize that process and share those revenues with our NVL token holders. So we essentially take on all the manpower and the technical aspects of running these large operations. And with the rewards that come in from them, we revenue share those with our own NVL holders and community.
Thank you. Nice and succinct explanation of what Nuvola does. Before we dive into the protocol a little bit further, do you mind talking a little bit about the team and some of the sort of help that is really helping to shape everything that you guys are doing together?
Yep. So I am the CEO. I'm helping essentially with, I came with the business plan, and I was trying to find the right individual to help me carry out the technicalities and the technical aspects of the operations. Then we have my CTO and co-founder, Syed Lanka. He's got just about a decade of experience in the ISP, internet service providing industry. He has his own data centers. He also has operated many nodes for many different protocols, with the latest one being Iagon. And he's the one essentially handling all the technicalities and the back-end work on getting all the nodes and servers set up and managing maintenance. And then we have Nathaniel Marengo. He's the one that's helping us with all our promo videos and our marketing. He's done a phenomenal job. We kind of had a stealth launch with our first partnership with Iagon, and the video, I think, was the perfect introduction to Nuvola and myself and the rest of the team. We are looking to expand rather quickly. We have a few moderators in some of our channels, but as far as the core team, this is it. And then as the operations expand, we'll need to obviously expand with it on an international level.
Nicely said. And I've got a couple of follow-up questions here outside of the team. But yeah, it's always interesting to see new projects launching into the ecosystem, right? And I think the way that you guys did it was a little bit different than others. You guys were completely transparent. Everybody was doxxed right away. You guys were clear about your mission. You're clear about your partners. And Iagon being a reputable project here, I think has really made a huge impact. And I just saw an announcement earlier that you guys have actually already gotten some Iagon nodes up with quite a bit of storage. So we'll dive into that here in just a second. So as an up and coming project, could you maybe highlight some of the challenges and hurdles that you faced? And then we'll dive a little bit deeper into your collaboration with Iagon.
Mm-hmm. So the biggest obstacle I think that we had come across was the trust of gaining a big partner like Iagon, right? I'm sure Navjit and the team, they get hit up consistently on a daily, weekly basis. And so getting in touch with them, while it was difficult at first, once we were able to show that we are professionals on the other end, we have a very robust model, and the degree of benefit that we were bringing to their network, it started to break down those barriers essentially. Personally, I don't think we could have had the same impact we had on the Cardano community had it not been with Iagon at our side, backing us and vouching for us that with the legitimacy. And then as far as another challenge, the community embrace overall, I feel like some people just personally did not know me for being in Cardano for the last 6 years. So they just saw a random project pop out online with a month-old Twitter, and they immediately assumed the worst, right? Where it was just so brand new, it was so hot. This can't be what they proclaim to be. But again, that Iagon backing and partnership really set the tone. And also to further prove to Iagon that we are here for the long haul, we solidified a 5-year contract agreement to provide server operations for the next 5 years, essentially. And we have baseline metrics, which will be released to the public following the mint right before we set up the operations. So there will always be a consistent baseline of the size and the storage and computing resource that we're providing to them over the duration of the next 5 years. But when we spoke to them, we didn't speak even in years or bull bear cycles. We spoke in decades. We see what they are up against, trying to compete with the centralized entities. So the conversation flowed well. So I think the transparency was the thing. Like you mentioned, we came out doxed. It helped us from the start. I think a lot of problems with projects coming out is that there's no trust. They're undoxed. You don't know who's on the other side, and it really hurts the reputation. So we won over Iagon's heart, and our model speaks for itself. So those barriers were broken down rather quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, again, I think you guys are off to a great start. Iagon, a pretty heavy hitter here in the ecosystem. I'd be surprised if anybody who's watching this within Cardano isn't aware of Iagon, right? So to come in, to get their support, to get their buy-in, I think is instrumental. And then from a content creator's perspective, even myself, I tend to get a lot more asks, obviously when times are good than when times are bad for new projects when it comes to coverage. And those are things that I look at as well, right? Do I recognize the team? How long has they been around? When was the Discord created? All these are different things that play into how I factor which projects I want to bring on. And again, after having our chat yesterday, I could really sense that you guys are here for the long term and that you guys have the right intention. So I wish you all the best of luck with that regard. Now,
Thank you.
diving into your partnerships, we just highlighted Iagon, the fact that we now have storage already online. What additional partners do you have in mind or do you have in your sights? And then I want to ask a follow-up question as to whether or not they'll be in Cardano or whether they'll be outside the ecosystem as well.
Yep. So Iagon was the first, right? I think everyone kind of knows at this point. Um, we also partnered with Dex Hunter, which is to answer a portion of the question you brought up as far as where else we have our sights set. Dex Hunter has been leading the way for cross chain, right? They are trying to break down those barriers. They've done so much to bring in non-native assets back in and help with the liquidity. We know that we're going to be going cross chain. We don't have any boundaries as far as coding or any of our networks, right? We're more in a physical business where we operate physical structure all over the world. So it breaks down those barriers of being confined to just Cardano or Ethereum or any other blockchain. But we are definitely looking. We have some sites set on a few projects. We can't really give out too much information as of yet. But the point of Nuvola is to be chain agnostic, and we want to be as inclusive as possible, not only to the models and the partners we're dealing with, but to the chains. And if there's a great idea and someone has a model that's lucrative and it makes sense for us to get involved in, and it's going to give a great ROI to the brand and to our investors as well, you best believe that Nuvola is going to fly over on that side of town and see how we can make it happen and have some flowers grow, so to say. Then we also partnered with Coinecta for our token launch coming up in a few days here on the 18th. They've been fantastic helping us with the token minting. They're going to help us with the handling of the actual sale, registering all the buyers and any kind of returns if there's an over allocation or refunds. They've done a phenomenal job with marketing as well. And then we are actually meeting with two others this week. One is in Cardano for sure, that we are also very excited about. They have some rather new developments coming out that caught our attention, and we caught their attention just based off of the services we provide. But I think after these potential two, we are going to be looking aggressively as our first cross-chain partner to bring them back. And as far as the handling of those rewards, Dex Hunter will be helping us greatly with any kind of swap of any sort, or just with the conversion back into ADA and then bringing it back home to our treasury and our holders.
Nicely put. And you actually touched on a question that I was going to ask earlier was, how do you guys plan on distributing tokens earned, right, from DePIN projects outside of Cardano into the ecosystem? So it sounds like you guys may have some sort of conversion process in place to where, for example, let's say that you operate infrastructure for a project called X outside of Cardano, you get Project X tokens, you convert those Project X tokens over to ADA and then distribute that ADA amongst the NVL token holders. Would that be an accurate summarization there?
Very accurate, yes. If we can support those tokens on Cardano actively in a wrapped asset manner, I'm not too sure the technicalities of that aspect, but I'm sure eventually if that's a possibility and we can go that route instead of constantly having to convert, we will do so as well if the community is up for it. But the path of least resistance to start is going to be to convert to ADA and then distribute accordingly to our holders in our treasury there.
Awesome. Again, for anybody who isn't aware or just maybe just didn't grasp the concept early on, Nuvola's goal is to essentially support existing DePIN projects in and out of Cardano and then provide those rewards amongst their NVL token holders. Again, interesting word that I hadn't heard before, you guys, which is DePIN aggregator. So really, really cool to see some of the innovation and some of the different business models coming out of this space. Now, let's quickly take a look here at your existing roadmap. As it stands, we've already got the launch of the website, Twitter, and Discord. We've got the LLC, Nuvola Digital. We've got your first partnership, Iagon, cross-chain partnership, Dex Hunter, Launchpad partnership, Coinecta, and your first set of nodes, which have already been released for Iagon, announced earlier today. As you mentioned, we've got the NVL Token Sale taking place on Coinecta on the 18th of April. I'll leave the links to that down below. And we're going to jump into the tokenomics here in just a minute. Now, following that, we have the staking dashboard and rewards in the second partnership. Do you mind, because I think you've already kind of talked about the partnership just a second ago, do you mind talking about the staking and the reward dashboard and what we can expect from that aspect?
Yep. We are looking to have that out aggressively following the token sale. We're already in conversations with partners that provide staking and smart contracts to get that out. So essentially what that's going to be is a live representation of the accumulated rewards of the Nuvola overall based off the partnerships, right? And then what the treasury is getting, what the public stakers are getting, and then users will also be able to plug and play with their wallets and see what they are actively accumulating as well based off of their NVL staked holdings. We foresee that coming out within a month following the token sale. We want that out immediately because that's essentially what we're able to show the public as far as what that we're earning and what they're earning. And it's overall, the overall health of the protocol is going to be reflected there as well.
Thank you. And as a follow-up question, this just came to mind for me here. As you guys are launching and supporting more projects, you're obviously earning rewards. So let's say that you're earning a fixed amount of rewards based off of, for example, how many Iagon nodes you're running, but then there's more demand for the NVL token than there is rewards. I would assume that you get to a certain point where the amount of rewards per token holder, right, would diminish. I'm trying to better understand the business model to make sure that as more Nuvola token holders come along, right, that there is room to deploy more nodes, therefore generate more revenue to distribute to those new NVL token holders. So do you mind maybe touching on how Nuvola is actually going to be benefiting from this altogether, but then how you plan on managing the scaling of the platform as it grows?
Yep. So essentially the only, this conversation came up in one of our Discord recently, actually. The public staked NVL token, that's specifically reserved for the public. So it's not that the entire supply of NVL earns the rewards. Any team held tokens and any NVL tokens in the treasury do not partake in the cut from what goes to the public. So 50% of all rewards earned go directly to the public. That's not distributed amongst the entire 21 million supply. That's distributed amongst what's held by the public. So if, let's say, only 10 million tokens are held by the public and the other 11 million are held by team and treasury, this is a very drastic example. Those 10 million will earn the 50% of those rewards. Now, if only 5 million are staked, those 5 million tokens will earn the totality of those 50% of rewards. If you go to the reward allocation on the white paper, it'll give a more thorough breakdown, essentially. And then it's also fed into the treasury, where the treasury keeps getting redeployed into more DePIN structures. And I put out a video. Our model essentially is what's called a 1-to-X ROI model, where your input is your purchase of NVL. You hold, let's say, 1,000 tokens. It's always going to be valued based off the value of NVL. But as our partnerships grow and as we contribute to more networks, your output, or what comes back to you in the form of passive income, keeps increasing. It's not locked into 1-to-1. It could be based off 5 partnerships. So your input, technically 1 purchase of NVL, and you can potentially earn rewards from 5 different streams. And then as we grow, it could be 10 different streams, all without having to go purchase more tokens to earn more. So the reward aspect that you mentioned, where it could become less lucrative, while it is a possibility, it would be only a possibility if the protocol overall is not growing and expanding to more networks. It will get to a point where potentially, if we're not outpacing the valuation of our token, maybe the rewards to the token valuation could be slightly skewed. But again, in doing so, we just need to keep expanding and growing, which is why we're in existence, right? Also, to further add to the equation, we are working on 2 in-house products where we're not just dependent on other DePINs. These are going to generate their own sources of income for us. Again, further being broken down into 50% of the token holders and then 50% of the protocol for continued growth. But the way we have our formula of the 1 to X model, which I recently put out a Twitter video about, just to further explain it, essentially solves that problem of where the token rewards can be diminished based off of just stagnant growth. Because as long as we're growing, and also we don't have to keep expanding to new partnerships to keep growing, we could, as rewards flood in, spin up more nodes within those same protocols, technically giving us a larger allocation of the revenue models from those same partnerships as well. So there's a couple different safety nets there that we have put in place essentially. Another option is if we wanted to, we saw some undervalued tokens on the open market, the treasury can perform a buyback, and now there's less tokens earning more rewards on the public side, because it always comes down to what the public state holdings are. The rest of the protocol does not take away from that. So I hope I explained that thoroughly.
I think you did. I want to go ahead and just try to recap here very briefly. So we have the total supply, right? 3% towards airdrop, 5% towards liquidity, 10% towards team, 15% towards treasury, and then 67% towards the token sale. Of that amount, right, what's going towards the public, which I believe is a portion of the 67%, and correct me if I'm wrong here.
14 million tokens, 14 million
Yep.
tokens in the public, yep.
Out of those 14 million, the only amount that's going to be earning the node rewards, right, for any of the DePIN projects that you support, i.e. Icon, etc., will be the ones that are staked first off, right? So let's say out of the 14 million, 7 million are staked. Those 7 million will earn the rewards from the Icon nodes and other DePIN projects you guys support. It'll earn those rewards. Now, of that, 50% is going towards the stakers. And when I say of that, I'm talking about the total amount of rewards earned.
Yes.
50% is going towards the stakers of the public tokens. 25% is going back towards the treasury, 15% towards OPEX and maintenance, and then 10% towards the team. So looks like this left-hand side is sort of how the protocol keeps itself running, of course, in addition to the team. And then this right-hand side is how the community is able to benefit. Was that an accurate recap?
That was extremely accurate. And also you reminded me to bring up another very valid point. Of the example you gave, let's say of the 14 million available for public at the time, only half are staked. The other half of the rewards that were allocated for those public stakers get further divided 50% back to the stakeholders and 50% to the protocol. So there's never a waste of or lack of redistribution. Revenue is always flowing somewhere, and it always makes its way into the public side and back to the protocol. So even if you don't want to stake your tokens for whatever the reason, your rewards will be going to stakeholders and the treasury again. And it's just a never-ending cycle, essentially, where money is always flowing every which way.
So essentially, then you are incentivized as an NVL token holder to stake, right? Because you want to not only just get the traditional token price appreciation, but you also want to earn some of these node rewards to sort of help along that process. And as you mentioned, as you guys expand, we could potentially see, 3, 4, 5, 6 token rewards being given back over to NVL token holders, depending on the partnerships that you guys have laid out. So I can see this being very beneficial for the end user, but I can also see this putting a lot of pressure on you guys, right, to nail a lot of partnerships in order to really provide the maximum benefit or the maximum returns for token holders. So I appreciate you taking a moment to really dive into that there with me. As Raul mentioned, he will be having, or not he, but the team will be having their token launch with Coinecta. Do you mind maybe while we're talking about tokenomics, as we get ready to wind this section down, highlighting, some of the details surrounding the upcoming token launch? And then I want to pivot over into your vision and roadmap, right, for the rest of 2024.
Yep. So our token sale is going to happen on April 18th. I believe it's 3 p.m. UTC, 11 a.m. EST, if I'm correct with my time conversions. 14,070,000 tokens will be available total for the sale. Uh, our target raise is 4.5 million ADA, making the price per token of 0.32 ADA. Uh, from the feedback we've received, we're pretty confident the Cornecta team is handling um, the entire sale on behalf of us. And if in the event of an over allocation, there will be refunds going back to the holders as well. And if in the event of an under allocation, so let's say we raise 4 million out of 4.5, the excess tokens will be redistributed back to the buyers based off their size of their investment. So there's potential if we don't meet our target, we will still take on the funding and continue operations, but we will reward immediate buyers with a surplus of tokens to start.
Nicely said and nicely put. One aspect that we have not touched on, and maybe this is a better question for some of the more technical members. I know you mentioned that's sort of what Saeed deals with, but do you mind maybe talking about the security and the actual hardware, right, that you guys are using to run the Nuvola Digital platform, right? So, can you maybe talk about where those servers are hosted from? You know, where you guys are acquiring the hardware, just sort of like the background on that side of things, but then also the security and the reliability as well, right? Because again, you can have partnerships, for example, with Iagon, and I'm not saying this is you by any means, but you could have a node that isn't necessarily always up, or you could have a node that isn't necessarily operating efficiently. Could you talk about the security, the performance, reliability, et cetera, of the actual hardware itself that's being used for these nodes?
Yes, I could definitely speak on most of it, I believe. So Iagon is huge on performance metrics. They also don't like big operations in just one place. So we are dispersed currently between the US, France, Germany, India, and I believe we're even in Singapore, if I'm not mistaken, as of yet. If not, we will be in a very short amount of weeks. Um, but the servers that we are acquiring essentially are from the top manufacturers or the top service providers in those fields. Uh, Saya could speak very deeply on why we're acquiring certain servers, but our internet speeds, our read write times, our upload and download speeds, those all play very critical roles into the performance of the nodes, which is where Iagon tends to favor the better performing nodes. It's just a more fair metric across the board, right? Instead of just an even division, they heavily favor the ones that are contributing the most and at the most optimal metrics. Our current average is about 69 out of 70. The highest score you can get is 70 for your node performance. We're hovering at 69, 69 and a half, which is really good for nodes that are just online about a week now. But as far as security goes, we're dealing with some of the biggest brands and some of the better names that have been around for quite some time. Again, you know, Saya could speak further on the technicalities of those. But if a server was to go down or a node was to go down and it was on the service provider's end, we could essentially get a replacement of sorts, from what I'm understanding, or Iagon helps us work through that. But essentially, our performance is our biggest priority when it comes to this, because it ultimately correlates direct back to how much we're rewarded from the system and the revenues and everything.
Exactly. And that's actually why that question came about, right? Because again, your model is solely based off of providing these services. If the nodes aren't up, then there's no rewards going back to the holders, which I think, of course, would be a growing concern. So I appreciate you taking that question on. We are at just about the 30-minute mark, and we've gone through quite a bit here. Actually, some of the things that we've gone through weren't necessarily on the agenda. So I do appreciate you taking the time to answer those things as well. Looking out into just the remainder of the year, you know, what is the goal for Nuvola Digital? Where's the focus, and where's all your attention going?
Yep. So we're heavily looking to acquire our 1 to 5 models. So we want 5 very, very strong partnerships, all with their own independent revenue streams that we can essentially diversify our portfolio for our treasury and our investors. We are looking to have 2 independent products of Nuvola out. They're 2 different apps. Well, it's one app with 2 different aspects of it. That will also work very well in parallel with a lot of the partnerships that we're bringing on board. And essentially, if depending on the markets and how well we can perform, by the end of 2025, early 2026 is where we are going to start to consider maybe acquiring some of our own data centers with more physical hardware that we control, that we could potentially even rent out for usage to others, which will introduce a whole other income stream there. I think getting us up to about 7 with 5 partnerships, 2 different apps, and then the data center. So we have a very aggressive roadmap, but when you have a revenue share model, you could kind of push the boundaries a little bit because our whole model is based off of immediate income. And month one, our operations will start to turn over a lot of ADA, and we will reflect all this and be very transparent. So the rest of our roadmap will be coming out in the next week or so. And I think it's all going to start to make sense on a much deeper scale as to where we're headed and why.
And you just mentioned something that spurred a last and final question for me, which is as how quickly, right, will we begin to see rewards once the actual sale completes and the tokens are distributed over to holders? Because again, with the recent announcement, right, sounds like those IGON nodes are already rolling, if not very close.
Month one, we will already 30 days from when the operation starts. So 30 days out, we'll have already brought in a substantial amount of returns based off just the model itself and the size of the operation. Again, it's all raise dependent, so I don't want to overpromise any numbers, but essentially we're already earning and we're not even live yet technically. So our NVL holders are going to get retrograded those rewards as well. So we are going to, as of month one, we'll already have income rolling in. And then it's just a matter of when we can distribute based on when our partnerships allow the unlocking of the rewards to be claimed for us. But within the first month or 2 months, we should have a schedule set. And then going forth, we will know exactly when each unlock will happen for our own holders as well.
Got it. Thank you. I think that's really it for me. I want to ask some more questions about the distribution and how you guys plan on doing that. So, I mean, it's up to you if you want to go ahead and answer that. But I
Yeah,
typically like to answer, I typically like to ask, excuse me, for you to give us your closing thoughts. So maybe you can talk about the distribution and then also go ahead and give us your closing thoughts as we get ready to head out.
Yeah, so the distribution, essentially, we're going to have a staking portal where it's all based off smart contracts, and it's going to read how long someone has been staked. We don't believe in locking people in. We want the Cardano way, which is very liquid. Liquid staking, you could come and go as you please. You're only going to earn on the time that you're staked. There will be likely a 2-week warm-up where we want wallets to stay in for the long run and not just stake on stake every other day, right? So there will be a load period of about 2 weeks roughly. We're still finalizing. And then you will start earning from day one, but if you don't stay the first 2 weeks, essentially those rewards will get redistributed. So it encourages some holding aspect of it. But after that, you keep accumulating, and then whenever it is that you want to unstake, there'll be a claim button in our portal, and those tokens will be essentially released to your wallet based off of what you have contributed or the amount of NVL you are holding. There's a little bit of confusion. There is no staking payouts in NVL. NVL's primary utility is to be staked and held in our portal. That's what we will read to register each wallet to give them their allocation of rewards, and people can claim freely at that point.
Got it. I appreciate you clarifying and sort of highlighting how you guys plan on distributing the tokens. Again, this is, I think, is the opportunity for you to give us any sort of closing thoughts, maybe highlight anything that you want the community to know about or anything that I may have not raised during this interview.
Just closing thoughts. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for the interview and your time. Thank you for sharing us with your community. And we're just very excited for our upcoming token sale. We've got an overwhelming amount of support and love from everyone. IAGON has contributed greatly to that. Coinecta, Dex Hunter as well. Even Vesper, a quick shout out to them. They jumped in with some airdrops. But we're just very excited. We'd love to see everyone follow us on Twitter at Nuvola Digital _ and just hang out in our Discord. Feel free to ask the hard questions. We love that, especially when it comes to how the rewards are distributed, our partnerships, how we're deciding all of that. We're very receptive to listening to the community. After all, like I said, this is a very inclusive model that normally would exclude a lot of people. So we want as much feedback as possible of how we can further give back. But again, just thank you for the time. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, not a problem. As a content creator, I realize the reach that the content has, but then also the support that some of the newer projects in the ecosystem need. And it's a pleasure. Again, I get to meet you, hear a little bit more about Nuvola. Not only am I learning, but hopefully the viewers that have been watching have also been learning along the way. As Raul mentioned, Nuvola, connecting the dots here, a DePIN aggregator focused in building initially on Cardano with a global/multi-chain vision. They've already partnered up with Igon. We're expecting some upcoming partnerships as well as some new services as well. So make sure to go ahead and check their official website out. It's available at nuvoladigital.io. And if you guys have any questions, please leave them down below. I'll leave the links to every resource that they have down below there as well. But on that note, if you guys did enjoy today's video, I would appreciate you if you could smash that thumbs up. Not only does it help me here out on the channel, it also helps to get this content out to other members in and outside of Cardano. Again, consider subscribing if it's your first time stopping by Dapp Central. I aim to cover all the biggest and newest builders here in the Cardano ecosystem. And last but not least, if you have any questions for myself or Raul surrounding Nuvola Digital, what they do and some of their services, then please make sure to leave a comment down below. That said, and as always, we'll see you guys in the next video.